Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
I totally understand. Okay. Let's take attendance. Jacob Arsenega. Jacob, where you been, dude? Ben Ayala. Benjamin Ayala.
Here, Professor.
Okay, good. With that, Ben?
Yeah.
Okay. John Barajas.
Here, Professor.
Caitlin Bizonia.
Here, Professor.
Thank you. Enrique Caldera.
Here, Professor.
Good. Jesus.
Here, Professor.
Gustavo.
Here, Professor.
David Collins, I saw you sign in. Andrew Cortez.
Here, Professor.
Andy Folgar. I know Aubrey's here. I just saw her. Andy Folgar. Dominic Gonzalez.
Here, sir.
Good. Fabian Gonzalez.
Here, sir.
Nicole Lopez. Nicole. Patrick Lopez.
Here, sir.
Alondra Ortiz.
Here, sir.
Bryant Ortiz, I just saw you sign in. Humberto
Here,
Penaloza.
sir.
Good. Humberto. Humberto Penaloza. Manuel Ramos. Manuel? Oh, I thought I
I'm here,
saw-
Professor. Sorry.
Yeah, I thought I saw your name.
Yeah, I'm the one with the Wi-Fi problem.
Oh, okay. Josh Reed.
Here, sir.
Great. Okay. If anybody notices a chat message from one of these people that are missing, just let me know. Humberto, Nicole, Andy, and Jacob not here. Okay, well, we are turning the corner, and you're going to be taking your midterm here soon, and we're going to start now talking about the different types of construction and applying that to the fire service. I feel like, you know, I could use a whole extra week. And if we get a little behind, the last two chapters are not essential, in my opinion. You can just look at them. They will be on the final and stuff, but it's more important to me that you understand all this stuff. So chapter 8 is on wood frame construction. Notice that I did not put chapter 7 here or the midterm because they're kind of happening at the same time as chapter 8, but you have to have got all this other stuff done to get into chapter 8. And there's a lot here. I just added 3 things today. And actually, I copied these out of some books that I have, and I hope I don't get in trouble for that. So I want to start with one of those. Let me see. Hold on just a sec. So they're right here, and I want you to look at them. So after the study quiz questions, the study guide. So here, I'll just go through it real quick. Here's the objectives and instructions. There are a lot I know sometimes you guys hesitate to watch the videos, but they're really informative and will help you understand this subject. So I highly recommend watching the videos. So there's your instructions. Make sure to check that out. Here's your questions. And then I've got 3 PDFs that I put in. And I wanted you to see this one especially, and I'm gonna bring it up a different way in just a sec. Well, you know what? It's probably just fine here. So this table is based there's a similar table in the building code more, and it explains what's involved in different the 5 different types of construction. And by the way, they all have 2 subtypes, except for type 4 does not have a second subtype, and type 2, I'm sorry, has a 3rd subtype. I didn't know that. Oh, I see. That's NFPA, according to NFPA. But in the building code, I think it's type 1 has 2 types. Type 2 has 2 types. Type 3 has 2 types. Type 4, and then type 5 has 2 types. So what makes a type 5, a type 4, a type 3, a type 2, type 1? Well, they go into an explanation here. Type 1 by title is fire resistive. Type 2, non-combustible. Now, I don't know about you, but I think this sounds better than that, but it's not. Non-combustible sounds better than fire resistive in my brain, but type 1 is the highest fire resistance ratings you can get. Type 3 is also called ordinary construction. Type 3 has a lot of nicknames. Some people call it Main Street USA. It's all exterior walls are masonry. So the exterior is very well protected, but the interior can be flammable materials. Type 4 is heavy timber, not used as much anymore, but in some certain applications, you see heavy timber in churches. Sometimes see it in hotels. It's a look. If somebody does it now, it's not. Heavy timber was a way of making things a long time ago that was practical for a list of reasons that we'll talk about when we get in that chapter. But now it's heavy timber is very expensive. And if you get old growth heavy timber, like from Barnwood Builders, I don't know if any of you have ever watched that show on DIY channel. They tear down old barns that are built in the 1800s and some even older. And then they rebuild using those materials. And it's a look, it's beautiful, but it's really expensive now. So only certain places are going to do it if there's a reason for it. A lot of times now you're seeing faux heavy timber. I have a friend that built this big, beautiful home, and his den had this very earthy feel to it, beautiful rock fireplace and these wonderful beams. And I was like, oh, Mark, those beams are so cool looking. I really like that. He goes, they're foam. They were made out of foam, painted in a faux way to look like real timbers. Because to put heavy timber like that can be really, really expensive. And then of course, tonight we're going to talk about type 5 wood frame. So what's cool about this chart is it kind of tells you about if it's rated or not. So type 1, the highest rating, all of these are 4-hour rated, 3-hour rated. So what does that mean, the hour rating? So in type 5, there is type 5 that can have 1-hour rated walls, but I bet that most of your homes are right here. No rated walls, except between the garage and the house, it has to be 1-hour rated. Your door, have you ever noticed your door between the garage and the house is a heavy door, and it has to have an automatic closer? That's required by the building code. So what does it mean when it's a 1-hour rated wall or a 2-hour rated wall? What do you think? There's a lot of crickets out there. Well, I'll tell you. Are you still alive? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to know you're all still there. I mean, I'm not hearing anything. A 1-hour rated wall really won't hold back a fire 1 hour, but it's a rating that it's supposed to be like it would hold it back 1 hour. So a 20-minute door is supposed to take 20 minutes for fire to burn through it. A 1-hour wall is supposed to take an hour for it to penetrate through. It's less than an hour. It's kind of like a 2x4. There are no 2x4s out there except for really old ones. They're all less than 2x4, but they're still called a 2x4. So a 1-hour rating is supposed to slow a fire down at 1 hour. A 2-hour rating, it's supposed to take 2 hours for it to penetrate through the wall, 3 or 4. So a 4-hour rated wall is usually steel encased in concrete or concrete alone. Yeah. So like, here's some pictures. This is steel, and there's a sprayed on insulation. Can you see that? So here there was this great fire, but look, the building is still in pretty good shape. It's fire resistive, so it's charred from the smoke, but the building is fine. All the furniture is a disaster. The first interstate fire was one that burned pretty wild and crazy in downtown LA. Nothing, minimal damage to the building. It was all contents that were burning. Whereas type 5 that we're going to talk about tonight is the exact opposite. Okay, so I want you to read through this, and these descriptions here, similar to what you get in the book, but very simple and to the point. And that's one of the reasons why I put this here. I mean, here in 6 pages, very easily, all 5 types just explained. Okay. Oops, I didn't have to do that. Then this other one that I want you to look through is about type 5 construction. So today and this week, you're learning about wood frame construction, type 5. Most of us, there might be a few exceptions out there. Some of you maybe live in apartments that are type 3, or, you might live in, I highly doubt you live in something that's type 1 or 2 unless it's high rise, and we don't have any high rise in Santa Clarita. Most of your homes are a version of type 5. This is a very typical drawing. This is a platform style construction, type 5, which means it's predominantly wood. Now, sometimes, and they deliberately included this picture, sometimes you'll pull up on a type 5 building, but it looks like it's a brick building. And there are a lot of homes here in Santa Clarita, especially some of the bigger, higher dollar homes that have a brick or rock look to them or something of that nature. And this is a facade. It's not really the structure. So you can see here, there's some kind of a gypboard or something that's in between, and the brick is just there for looks. It does not hold the building up. Okay. If the exterior of the building really was brick, it would be type 3. And they get confused, and that's really important that we know the difference between type 3 and type 5. As we look at the 5 types over the next 5 weeks, one of the things I want you to learn is, okay, well, what's the hazard? Because there's pros and cons to every type. It's just like I mentioned with truss. Trusses are used a lot in type 5. And the truss for roofs or floors, they are used for a very logical reason. They're inexpensive and they're light. They're way lighter than using heavy timber. So there's a positive to that, right? Our homes would cost a ton more if they didn't use trusses. But the problem with trusses is that they fail very early in a fire because of how short the gusset plates are. Did we talk about that yet? Anybody know? Did I talk about trusses and gusset plates?
Yes, sir.
I thought so. I have some pictures in here that you'll see of where you can see how short these gusset plates are. They're like a 1/2 to 3/4 inch. And then so imagine a nail that's only just 1/2 inch. Are you going to put a lot of confidence in that? No, not really. So here's another illustration of type 5. Here's the joists of a floor and sill plate and, the basic framed structure. So this one, I'm sorry, you can, try and turn it. But what this illustration gives you all of the terminology in a wood frame construction house. Here's the list of the parts that correspond with these numbers, okay? So that will help you if you're reading and you're going, what the heck is a tread on a stair? Or what's the stringer? You can find that out. And here's another illustration because stairs are so important. Stair failure kills people. Stairs is a really frightening part. We do not allow in any commercial setting to store anything under a stairwell because of fire spread. So, this gives you all the names, the newel post, the balusters, the handrail, the tread, the riser, and then this is the stringer. So parts of a stair, this is the opening of a stair has to be built correctly where it's going to pop out into the second floor. All of that's got to be, you put a lot of confidence when you're walking upstairs, and having one collapse would be really bad. The last one is roof types. Now, there is an extra credit assignment that's in our, somewhere in there. You can go straight to assignments and find it. If you see some of these different roof types and take a selfie of yourself with that roof in the background, send it to me, upload it, and then say, this is, I found a gambrel roof, or I found a mansard roof, or I found a shed roof. These are all different roof types. And in fact, there's even a better illustration in this next PDF. And it's I like that it's color, it's a little easier to tell. Pyramid type hip roof. One of the ones they don't have in here, but I think I've got it somewhere else, is Sawtooth. Sawtooth is rarely used anymore, but it used to be used. There is one here in town at Cal Arts. It was used in big warehouses. And so the roof would go up and then straight down and then up and then straight down and then up and then straight down. So it had this look of a upside down saw. The part that went straight up and down had lots of windows. And so it was a way of adding light into buildings. Also, they could open the windows and it helped with ventilation pre-air conditioning. So there's one of these Sawtooth roofs off the 5 down near County General Hospital. So when you're driving around, no, when somebody else is driving, you can look and see if you can find that Sawtooth roof. They're very rare to see. But like I said, there's one at Cal Arts. You can go over there and see if they'll let you in. They won't, but okay. And then here's the pictures of the trusses. So this is called a gusset plate, and these are trusses, and they're often used for floors and for roofs. So this one was part of the, it's a flat roof, and it was part of the roof structure. And you can see how big this gusset plate was because these were big members. And then some of these other gusset plates aren't as big. See, here's that big one in the distance, and here's the others. So bigger beams, bigger members, bigger gusset plates. So I wanted to get a close-up of a gusset plate and wanted you to be able to see that. So this is in my garage. And so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members that are being joined by this simple gusset plate. And I think there's one on both sides. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to go back out there and look. But I took this picture. Yeah, see, it's on both sides. Because here you can see this is what holds it to the wood. And you can see it's a ½ inch, maybe 3/4 max. And those bite into the wood and hold it together. Now that's adequate as long as it's not exposed to heat. If you have fire in here, this baby's gonna heat up, and through conduction, it's gonna transfer that heat into the wood and it'll char. And this is usually where we get failure, where there's gusset plates, okay? So those were the things I wanted to show you in the module. Here's some of these great videos, a lot of really good informative videos. This one's a little old school, but very good information. And balloon framing does confuse a lot of people. And I like that this one has some pictures that really show you, like right here, we're looking up from the floor up to another floor. and this is what concerns us with balloon framing. It's in the walls, straight up from basement, if there is one, all the way to the attic, open. No studs, cross studs, none at all. This one's about roof structure, but this one's pretty interesting. And it's a wood truss test burn. A little unrealistic because it's outside. You're getting more oxygen, but on the other hand, the heat isn't being totally held inside. So, maybe a little bit off on how fast, but it goes in about 5-6 minutes. Okay, that's everything that's in the module. I want to go through a couple of things. Oh, you know what? I wanted to show you a couple of things online first. I'm going to let you guys go through the PowerPoint on your own, but I'm going to bring it up and point out some important things. Okay. There's just so much information here. I feel like we would have an overwhelming class. I want you to read the book. I almost wish I had time to just introduce it and then talk about it next week after you're reading. So if you read ahead into chapter 9, that'd be really smart on your part. I just might do that. We might talk some about this next week as well. And then we'll skip one of the chapters at the end of the semester. We won't skip it. We won't cover it in class. You'll do it on your own because they're easier to cover on your own. Okay, here's what I wanted to do. This article, this guy has some good illustrations. Gary Bowker, firefighter. Hey, this is a great little online magazine, Fire Rescue One, and they have some good, short, informative articles. If you want to, go to that Fire Rescue One and then bookmark it, and there's lots of good information there. So, excuse me. This is balloon framing. I wonder if I can, no. Can you see how it's open? Boom, boom, boom. It just goes straight up. So there is nothing that would stop a fire from in the basement and running all the way to the attic. Rapid fire spread because of the fire pathways. See what he says here, the lack of fire stopping within the exterior walls can pose a major challenge for firefighters. In addition, the joist channels underneath the floors are interconnected with the exterior wall stud channels. So you can get horizontal and vertical or lateral and vertical extension very fast in balloon frame buildings. Usually balloon frame is pre-World War II buildings, older buildings. So you don't see them as much, but he said, most of the time you see an old 2-story building like this, you're gonna think it's balloon frame, but it might be a combination of balloon frame and modern construction, or it could be modern construction made to look old. So you just have to be careful and check and look for the signs. Usually, I would say pre-World War II looking, assume it's balloon framing. Then this article here also has some good illustrations, pictures. Here's an old home in a historical district, was gutted of its conventional construction and then rebuilt with lightweight trusses, which is just totally confusing to us. And remember early on in the semester, we talked about how pre-33 can be, we call it, they put makeup on it and they give it a different look in the front. But if you go to the back of the building, you realize, well, this building is 100 years old and subject to early collapse, early wall collapse. This guy had a great point. So here's truss construction for a floor. And trusses are just triangles, all these triangles, and it's compression and tension together. So it holds it, and it's capable of handling very heavy loads. So how do you tell? You come up on a building and it's got brick on it and you're thinking, oh, it's type 3, but maybe not. Is it type 3 or is it type 5 made to look type 3? Well, he said one of the ways is to look at the windows. If the windows, if you have a deep inset window, that's a sign that it's type 3, it's concrete block or brick. Whereas if it's wood frame, it's going to be right up against the frame. See the difference here? Windows in block or brick houses tend to be recessed. Windows in a frame house tend to be fairly flush with the walls. So that's a good thing to remember as to how to identify, is this type 5 made to look type 3 or is it really type 3? So here's a veneer, and this is brick, and it's just, they use these tabs, metal tabs, to connect the veneer to the wall. So the veneer it fools you, but also it's subject to easy collapse. Balloon frame construction, here's another great illustration or photograph up a channel, and fire will go through that so fast like a chimney. Here's a this balloon frame home was being renovated. It's very popular today to buy old homes and renovate them. Well, the building officials very smartly said, yeah, if you're going to renovate this, you've got to add fire stopping throughout the building. So you can see they're adding studs here so there can't be the vertical spread or it impedes it. Okay, that's enough of that one. I just wanted to show you some good stuff. And then, so here's 3 different photos. Well, I think I can make that bigger. Yeah, look at that. So this is timber frame, and used a lot in old barns, but it's kind of made a comeback. And people, like I said, are wanting to get that old organic look to a home, very earthy. So in timber frame, the walls are just kind of hung on the frame. And so they have what they call bents. And this is part of a bent. So a bent would be, if you look down the long part of the building, you would have bents spaced throughout going the width. So the bents are the main structural members, and they're usually heavy beams like this. In the old barns that are using old growth logs, a lot of them still, they've been hewed. You can still see where they were hand hewed with axes or those like mattocks things, I forget what they're called. And then you know, they would do this by hand back in the old days. We have machines to cut tenon holes, and to help you cut tenons. But then so this is where a tenon will slip in there, and then see this little hole. I just used the wrong term. The thing that slips in is different. The tenon is the little rod that goes in there, I think. So I forget. My terminology just got a little messed up. But these, so they put the little tenons in, post and tenon, and I can't remember that third word. So they go in there and they fill the hole and they compress in and they bang them into, because they're shaped like kind of conical, a little bit long and conical, so that they, once you bang them in there, really hard to get them out. And with time, the wood kind of swells, and very hard to get these babies out. So mortise, I finally got it. Mortise and tenon. So mortise cut, and this is the tenon, and then they put the little doodaddies in there. Okay, so aren't I good with my great terminology? Here's another illustration of balloon framing. You've seen that twice. So the main kinds of wood frame construction are old timber frame and the modern versions. Balloon frame, that almost everything now is platform frame, lightweight construction. Okay, so platform, it's like you build a box and then you put a platform on top of it, and then you build another box, and it's like building blocks, one on top of another. Okay, we're going to watch why it's really important to understand what kind of a building. This is kind of graphic, but I think this is a video worth watching. That's why you always wear your gear, even if you're not involved in the fire. So some of those different building collapse during a fire. Scary deal, right? Okay. A couple people showed up late, so I'm gonna Jacob, are you still there? I thought I saw you join. Jacob Arcenega?
Yes, Professor, I came a little late. Sorry, I got out of work pretty late today.
Okay, I got you. I saw you get on. Andy Folgard, did I see you join?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Nicole, did you show up? I don't-
Yes, sir.
Oh, you did. Good. And then Umberto. Umberto?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought I saw you. Okay, we're all here. Woohoo! Okay, so I'm going to take the next 15, 20, 30, I don't know, minutes, and I'm going to go through some of the PowerPoint. I want you to go back and look at it. I think you should read the whole chapter, then look at the PowerPoint, because you'll have the terminology in your head. And look at those videos and those PDFs. Okay. So just because there's wood, that doesn't mean it's wood frame. Okay. So wood is used a lot in buildings. It's not allowed. Wood is not allowed in not counting contents in the structure of type 1 or type 2. In type 3, it's allowed in the interior, and the same with type 4. Type 5, it's allowed everywhere. So we use wood for the whole structure, like in type 5, or we can just use it for roofing or interior trim. So there's different kinds of ways we make wood frame buildings. And I said there's 3 basic, but there are a few more categories. Well, there's the old log cabin. And we don't see too many of those around here. There's a few in some historical sites, but back east, you do still see them. People live in log cabins. And again, as I was saying earlier, they've kind of become a hip thing to rebuild them with modern conveniences. And this one's in pretty good shape, actually. But I want you to notice something. Have any of you taken fire prevention with me? I am teaching it during the winter session. If you haven't taken 102, I think you would like that class. Though in winter session, it's a blitz. It's even more intense than summer school. So look at this, a wood chimney. They cake it with mud or some kind of material inside, and like the chinking, and they have to keep doing it because it gets brittle and it breaks off. And wood chimney fires were very common. But a lot of times when I tell people, yeah, they used to make chimneys out of wood, they're all like, are you kidding me? Come on, you're pulling my leg. Well, here's one. And then, so we got log cabin, post and frame. That's what I was talking about earlier. Balloon frame, platform frame. We do have plank and beam and truss frame. So log cabins, like I said, not real common anymore, but they were used, all these joints They would join them together and then chink them. In fact, this kind of a log cabin, like the old Lincoln logs, very uncommon, very uncommon. More often you have something more like this. All of these cuts are made to repel water so that the wood doesn't decay at the corners. So post and frame has a very identifiable frame and skeleton using the mortise and tenon I was talking about earlier. The other word I couldn't remember is trunnels that go into the mortise and tenon. Walls are not structural. They are not load bearing. The bents are the structure, and everything just kind of hangs on them. Balloon frame, we talked a little bit about already. Let me show you this another great illustration. You can see how fire just travels right through it like a chimney. So if somebody's doing plumbing, this is oftentimes the culprit. Somebody's brazing copper tube or trying to do some welding or something of that nature. But they also, a lot of them have knob and tube or aluminum electrical. And if they have not been updated, these kind of houses, you know, people buy them all the time thinking, oh, that's so cool. We're going to redo it and have this wonderful, cool old house. It's a Victorian or whatever. And they don't realize they're buying into a nightmare, because you usually, if it hasn't been done already, have to change all the electrical, all the plumbing. So fires happen quite often in balloon frame and have rapid spread. So that's the thing that firefighters want to be thinking about with balloon frame. They're usually pretty structurally sound, but they have rapid fire spread in the walls and the floors. And here's, you know, we get all these modernized old style homes, Victorians, very popular, but they can have all sorts of hidden dangers. Back east, they have radiators. Where you have radiators, you have to have a boiler. Boilers can be a problem. You have issues in the walls. Oh, and by the way, if the rats get in the walls, they can travel the whole house. They just love it. It's like a highway for them. But here's the deal. What's inside, when we modernize them, we put all of this really highly flammable furniture that burns extremely hot. So all of those things, when we modernize these old homes, if we don't add the fire stopping, if we don't change the electrical, change the plumbing, and be careful of hidden fire dangers, then, you know, it can be a nightmare. Platform frame is what we have a lot today. First floor is built like a platform, then you have subflooring, and then you frame above that on the first floor. And there is no continuity from top to bottom. Each floor is like a box put on a box. And that's kind of good. There's some good things to that. There are some inherent barriers to limit the spread of the fire. But if they are multi-story, they usually have open stairwells. And to deal with, depending on how they've made the floors, have they used, if now in modern homes, they're using the trusses. If they've used trusses, there's plenty of room to get your utilities through them. But if not, a lot of times they'll have these soffits and space where you can run plumbing or ductwork and things like that through. And sometimes those can offer fire spread vertically or laterally or horizontally. So here's an illustration of a platform framed house. And see how it's kind of just a box on top of a box, and even the roof is just like another box put on top of the box. And it is an efficient way of building a home, and it's more cost effective. However, now with truss frame, it's added a dimension that makes it a little more dangerous for us, a lot more. So you can look at all of that later. Plank and beam. Plank and beam is built with the heavier beams, thick finished tongue and groove planks for the flooring, and it reduces, so you don't have like a space in between the roof or the ceiling and the next floor, but they'll use those planks, which serves as a pretty ceiling and a pretty floor. So it reduces the volume of those concealed spaces, but you can have other issues. But plank and beam, again, is kind of expensive. So here's an illustration of plank and beam. Beams, a post, roof beam. Again, take your time, look through this, and the book will explain it in better detail than I'm doing. Okay, so now we're to more modern times. What we're going to see, if you were a firefighter in Santa Clarita, unless you went to a mobile home fire or to an apartment building that was built as type 3, residential fires that you would go to in this district would almost all be lightweight construction, platform, lightweight trusses, and other wooden members. So, you know, as we're getting to know them and understand them better, you just got to think that how long has this fire been burning intensely? Because as the fire builds up, those trusses are going to start to, and all it takes, because the triangle is dependent on all three sides, one side goes, the whole thing goes. Trusses can provide these great long spans, which is great. Isn't that a beautiful church building? Probably Greek Orthodox or some kind of Orthodox. It's a beautiful building. So they started using lightweight trusses around the 1960s. This guy came up with the idea. He was both a builder and owned a lumber yard, and he was trying to think of a more efficient way and more cost effective, and he came up with these ideas. So sometimes trusses that are used for floors will use these finger joints. The roof trusses are the ones that use the gusset plates more, but they do use them in the floor joists as well. So, well, what's the big deal? So if it's more economical and all of that, well, it's hazardous firefighters, because as we saw with the captain from Fresno, they can fail rapidly. That fire probably, you know, was in the 5 to 8 minute from a phone call to him falling through the roof, right in that zone. I've never researched that part of it, but those gusset plates heat up and it decomposes the wood. And that's where the failures often happen. So, you know, the most important thing is you recognize, hey, this is a residential building. When the first thing, captain, he's going to give a size up. Residential single family, type 5 construction, looks like wood frame truss building. They would say things like that to help give you clues. But when you go up on that roof, you do an inspection hole and you stick your hand in there and you look in there and you see what kind of a roof it is. And then as you're working your way, you're looking for more smoke. You do little cuts. They call those curve cuts. And you're looking for, as the intensity of the smoke and maybe even a little bit of flame coming out, you know, okay, this is where we're going to cut our hole. We're not going to go any further. So here's a great picture of a truss, roof truss being installed. This is another thing that's so great about them is you bring a crane, you just place them on the roof, and you can have a whole roof put in place in a day, which is really fast. They don't have a ridge pole. Roof collapse is very common. Within the truss roof system, as you can see here, most of them will be made exactly the same unless there's some kind of a change in the structure. So you've got these void spaces. And it's a large area that can contain carbon monoxide, which is poisonous, but also explosive. So that's an issue. And you can get lateral extension through the trusses, especially floor trusses. You can get that lateral spread. And it's, you know, you're fighting a fire. A friend of mine, a Glendale firefighter, he had a close call that he told me about. He was working with his crew, trying to extend a line in an apartment building fire, heavy smoke, heavy fire. And they didn't know it, but it had spread into the floor. And they were in an apartment building, so it's multi-story. And there was fire underneath them as well as on the floor that they were fighting the fire on. Might have been a basement, but I think it was just another floor below. He's extending the line and again with his crew, and they came upon something in the way, and he thought it was a television. It did turn out to be a television, and it had fallen off of the wall. So he went to step over it, and something inside him said, check it first. So he took his axe and he went, and there was nothing there. The floor was gone and it had burned through. So you can get this extension through the floor so they backed off and decided to fight the fire from a different direction. Stairway exits can be involved in the fire and collapse before the occupants have escaped. The stairways do become because they're open, they become like a chimney. These are some lightweight wooden I-beams that are also used for floors or for flat roofs. They're very strong unless they're under fire conditions. There is one of the videos puts some of these under fire conditions. So here's a truss frame home. The roof is all truss and the floors are truss. Now you're not going to get, it's not like balloon frame where you're worried a lot about vertical extension through the walls, but you can get lateral extension through the floors and lateral extension through the roofs. But we're concerned about failure of any one of these gusset plates, any one of them, and then you're going to have a failure of that floor, failure of that roof. See this? The design assumes that every truss member has to remain in its assigned position to handle the load. Okay. Okay, I want you to look through a lot of the rest of this. Let me see if there was something else I wanted to talk about. They do talk about fireproofing. They make it more fire resistant, but there is no such thing as fireproofing of wood. And all of those chemicals and retardants that they wear off with time, and they will slow a fire, but they don't keep a fire from happening. Again, I want you to look at all of this stuff. Okay, and here's what I was talking about. Here's a perfect example of, looks like a brick building. It's not. It's wood frame construction with siding. So looks nice, looks like a beautiful brick building back east. It's not brick. This is all just a facade. But sometimes you get plywood siding, shingle and shake, asbestos cement, asphalt felt, and even polyvinyl chloride siding that's made to look like slats or batten board. So vinyl, metal siding, corrugated metal, and of course, most common here in California, stucco. And you can have the brick veneer. And so here's a picture of them doing a brick or kind of rock looking veneer. And you see they're only like, you know, half or 1 inch thick, and they're just concreted on. Wood shingle roofs are pretty much gone in California. We've made them illegal. There's still some out there, but very, very rare. Roofing now is kind of a big deal. Tile roofs, a little hard to cut your hole because you got to pull the tile first. They're heavier. They put a heavy load on the house, but they're a great look, and they're very good at protecting your home. But what's become really popular is metal roofs. And these metal roofs can even look like shingle or look like tile. So you can go up there thinking you're going to cut a hole. Well, you got to have a rotary saw with a metal blade on it to get that out. Or there's got to, sometimes there's a way to, because they're interconnected, you can use your axe to get under them and pull them up. It's a lot more work. It's not just going up there with a chainsaw and cutting a hole. So let me see if there was something else I wanted to say. I'm looking through the chat. David, what did you say that has a 2 hour before it burns down?
The first question you asked about how long it would take a wall to burn.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
2 hour safety rating, 2 hour safety.
Okay, so you put it here instead of saying it out loud. So yeah, that's basically it. Okay, I think the midterm, do you guys want to know about the midterm? It's all based on questions that you've seen in the study guides. You have plenty of time. Here, let me share screen again.
I have a question about the study guide for chapter 7.
For chapter 7, did you say?
Yes. When I pulled up the study guide, it said there was only 6 questions on it. Is that correct?
Yeah. No. The quiz has 20 questions. Uh-oh. Oh, that's 6 and 7. That quiz, right? That quiz is 6 and 7.
Correct,
correct.
yeah. And that is all that's on there is those 6 questions.
Yeah. So
Okay, for
that's
sure.
why. Yeah, I forgot that it was 6 and 7. So most of the questions come from chapter 6. And remember, I said chapter 7 is almost, it's a piece of cake, just some basic little stuff. Okay, midterm is due the 29th. I just kind of gave some extra time before so you can make sure you've done chapter 6, 7, and it opens available October 24th, so next week. Let me, yeah, Sunday to Friday, you're able to take the midterm next week, okay? But in the meantime, we're working for it. Okay, last thing, I hope nobody left. I hope you're all there still because I forgot to mention, so I talked about this at the beginning of class, but we're going to do all these PowerPoints. So the first one is not due until October 29th. It's due the same. So don't procrastinate on your midterm. Do it sooner. Don't procrastinate on working on this assignment. Don't put it off till the last day because they're both due the same day. Here's the rubric. Very simple, okay? And it sounds like we're doing a lot because we're doing these for the different types. But remember, you're doing your final project in bits and pieces, and you'll just love me that last week when you have tons of assignments in other classes, and all you got to do with this one is just put it together. Take all those PowerPoints you already did, take out the title pages of each one, create a new title page, put them all together. If I'd made comments on some of yours, like some of you just seem to think that it's okay to say, this is an example of wood frame construction. Well, how is it? I want to know more. I want you to say stuff. So this gives you all the instructions. So there's going to be 6 slides in this one. A title slide with the construction type, your name and my name. Then 4 slides. Now on that 4 slides, each slide will have 2 things. You're picking various distinguishing features of this construction type. That's up to you. You pick the things that you think are important to know about when you're talking about wood frame construction. And you're going to get a picture. You can get it off the internet. You don't have to go out there and take pictures unless you want to. If you see some construction in your area, oh, excuse me, and you want to go take pictures, that's great. Excuse me. But so you might have one slide of a balloon frame house, either a photograph of it or a diagram of it. And again, you can get these off the internet. I don't care. But the words need to be your words. Don't copy and paste what you got off of the internet explaining that. You say it. You need to put it in your own words. And oh, by the way, when you use somebody who wrote a professional magazine article and you put it in your PowerPoint, I'm like, yeah, that person doesn't talk like that. So don't do that, okay? Let it be your own words and then explain it. So in other words, slides 2 through 5 will have a photograph on one side and then an explanation of 3 to 4 sentences. I should say that in here. I'm going to change that right now. Watch me do this. Okay. And then the last slide, finish the presentation. For some reason, people forget this one. It's like, don't you read the instructions? It's right here. Everything you need to know. There's even a rubric. Oh my goodness. Summation slide. Finish the presentation with the final slide that's kind of a summary. That is an explanation. Choose one feature you think it's essential for firefighters to know about this kind of construction or this aspect of this kind of construction. And then why? So you might, talk about truss, or you might talk about balloon frame, or you might talk about, now one thing we'll learn with type 4 heavy timber, but it's true of plank and beam and old log cabins and all of that. Harder to get them going because it's big pieces of wood. But once it gets going, it's really hard to put out. And usually it's a surround and drown fire where we just put lines outside and shoot water in until the fire's gone. So you choose that final slide, what you want to say, this is something every firefighter should know about this kind of construction. Any questions about this assignment? This is why I took out the discussion assignment, because you have a quiz, you have the midterm next week, and you got this thing. So I took out the discussion assignment. Any questions? PowerPoint. If you do it in Keynote, export it as a PowerPoint, then turn it in. Please don't use Google Slides. I've told you how to have Word for a Mac or for any computer for free. Do it in PowerPoint, save it to your desktop, upload it. Everything will be easy. I've got so many students that just turned in an assignment in Oxnard, and I would say out of 60 students, 10% turned it in a way I couldn't grade it. And so I tell them, here's what you got to do. And then I got to explain to them something I already explained in the welcome letter, how to convert something into an office type, whether it's Word or PowerPoint or whatever format, because for some reason Canvas, those people up there, they don't like Apple. I don't know why. I'm an Apple guy. All my stuff is Apple. Also, don't send me an assignment via email or tell me to download it, because I won't download it. I look at them on Canvas. It's safe for my computer. It doesn't get me your virus that you have or your Trojan horse or whatever. Yeah, I don't want that stuff. I don't download assignments. I don't answer ads about how I can get more money on Social Security or emails, or how I need better service for all of my utilities. Okay. I'm done. Any questions?
No, sir.
Oh, you
No,
guys
sir.
are so quiet. I feel like I'm just in a room talking to myself.
Nah, I'm here.
We're here.
Okay, I'm feeling lonely and neglected. Though I do want to say, I'm teaching you in my pajamas. Can you see? And that's the best part of this. I'm in my PJs at home.
Yeah, because you're comfortable.
You look super comfy, sir.
Yep, yeah. If they make us go back to school, I'm going to ask if I can teach in my pajamas.
Why not?
Do it. Why not?
Yeah, I'd probably get fired. Okay, well, you're all excused and have a good evening. Make sure to read the whole chapter. This is heavy stuff. There's a lot to type 5. Well, all of them, all 4 of them. Probably the easiest one is type 4.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Sir.
Have a great evening, man.
Go
Good night, sir.
Dodgers.
Thank you, sir. See you next week.
Okay, they can do it. They can come from behind.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
All right, thank you.
Anybody got any questions? Okay, I'm